Good spooky morning, everybody. Welcome to Living Astrology with Countess Dracula. That's what I named myself this morning. Hello, I'm Janet with Living Astrology, and I'm here this morning on Halloween dressed for you. Dressed because we have a Halloween party to go to this evening, and as you can see, I just put my regular makeup on. I don't know how to make myself up to look like Dracula's countess. Anyway, thank you all for joining me this morning. We have a lot to talk about, actually, because this is the beginning of a new month. Well, today is the last day of the month, but tomorrow we begin a new month. And the month of November has a lot of energy around it, has a lot of different changes and things going on that will make it an interesting month astrologically, but also from a human design perspective. So this morning, we're going to be talking about today, which is the opening day of the new Human Design Week that runs from today through November 4th, where the sun is moved into, the gate 44, and that is called the Gate of Truth. It is the last gate on the spleen center, meaning we are coming to the end, the close of the time of the sun's movement through all of the gates of the spleen. And really, this time period has been about us being able to clear out what fears and shadows and so forth are there in our lives, so that we can begin again new and clear and fresh next week when the sun moves into the gate 1, the gate of purpose, the gate of living your purpose. Now, the earth is also in the gate 24, which is the gate of blessings. So we're going to talk about all of that and what it means. And then as well, we're going to be talking about a handful, if you will, of transits that are happening over the weekend. Beginning Sunday, we have Venus in a square to the planet Jupiter. Venus is in Libra, a sign that she's empowered in. And then we have Jupiter in Cancer, a sign that's been helping us grow and expand in terms of learning about nurturing and growth of our emotional intelligence, if you will. And we'll talk about what that means. And then the biggest news, I think, this is just my personal opinion, and it comes up on Monday. And the reason we're talking about it is because next week is so filled with transits that I didn't think I would have the proper time or a good amount of time to be able to work through this energy. And that is the shift of the nodes in human design. Remember, the nodes are still in Virgo and Pisces North Node, Virgo South Node. But what is happening in human design is that every couple of weeks to several weeks to a couple of months, it moves into a new set of gates, because the frequency energies are different in human design as opposed to astrology. So while in astrology, we're still in Pisces and Virgo, in human design, we're in Pisces, but in the gates that are going to change here on Monday to the gates 63 and the gate 64. Both of those gates, by the way, are on the head center. The gate 63 is called the gate of curiosity. It asks the question why, and it is taking us on a journey to find answers. And then the south node will move into the gate 64, called the gate of divine transference. And we're going to talk about how that changes up the energy from the current placement of the north and the south nodes. And then as well, we have another host of transits that are occurring that I think are pretty interesting, right? There's this grand water trine that we have had in the sky. And a trine, those typically bring ease and flow of energy. They're typically, pretty good passages of time. And yet water can be bringing up a lot of energy around emotions and baggage and things like that. And we have several things going on there that I want to be able to talk about, and including the planets like the Black Moon Lilith and Jupiter, Saturn, Mars, Neptune, and Chiron and Eris. So you can see there's a lot of different planets at play there that we'll want to break down and talk about. So, good morning to those of you who are showing up on this spooky Halloween morning. I see Natasha out there. Thank you so much, Natasha, for being here this morning. And you're most welcome for the insights. And Julie, good morning. Love the costume. My daughter was like, Mom, don't you want some eyeshadow or something? I'm like, no, I don't even know how to do that right. So, no, maybe tonight when I go to the party. So there's that. And good morning to Christine. Thank you very much. And I am glad you're all here with me, because at first it looked like I was talking to myself out here. I might have been. I don't know. Maybe there's an issue this morning with Facebook, because I see everybody showing up from YouTube, but I don't see my Facebook people yet, but it's all cool. So let's take a look now at our human design energies that are coming up for this weekend, starting today. I always count Friday as the weekend, by the way. So here we have Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and I'm going to talk a bit about Monday, just because Monday I'm going to have so many other things to share. So right now I'm going to share my screen so that y'all can take a look at my human design, or the human design chart that I created this morning. And I'm going to head back to StreamYard for just a minute, because I want to make sure everybody can see this pretty well. And there's no way for me to make this bigger this morning, but hopefully you can see enough of it that, you get the drift of what I'm talking about. So we're beginning the weekend with a brand new human design week. And remember, the human design weeks run differently than our calendrical weeks, right? They run based on energy, not on some standard, view of time and how it rolls through the calendar. So every 5 to 6 days, we change the energies in the gates, and that changes up what it is that we are experiencing as a collective, but also maybe for you personally, how you're experiencing the energy as it shifts throughout the time of the week. So today, the human design week changes with the sun's move into the gate 44. And I don't know if you can see, I can see it, so you guys must be able to. You can see my cursor going around here. This is the spleen center. It is the center for time, intuition, health, well-being, survival, thriving energy. And in this energy, what we have is this kind of DNA level impetus to really survive, right? That's how human beings have survived. As we move into this very last gate on this center of survival, if you will, we move into the energy of truth. And the earth is the grounding piece in all of this. And the grounding is up here on the ajna, the second center down, and it's in the gate 24, called the gate of blessings. So we have truth and we have blessings as we move into the energetics of this coming week. Now, gate 44 is really interesting. It is a gate that, from a human design perspective, was the trigger for the pandemic. When Neptune moved through this gate, it seemed to say, right, we're having to shift into something that's changing the very fabric of your DNA. And certainly COVID, while not doing it in a positive way, or in a way that we could see as positive, has had some definite impacts on our human DNA. But it's also about seeing clearly into the past. In the fear field of the gate 44, it's about the fear of the past repeating itself, right? That we take the signposts along the way and we see that as something that reminds us of how things turned out in the past, and we bring that forward as if we're reliving those past nightmares or those past shadow energies, and we start to create this whole story around fear. But the truth of the gate 44 is that it's really adept at recognizing patterns, recognizing truths, and even the fingerprints, if you will, of the old dynamics that are showing up in the present moment. And it's the gate of kind of the instinct that reminds us to trust our intuitive awareness And it says, wait, I've seen this before, and I need to choose again, or I need to choose perhaps a new path forward, right? So it is always kind of reminding us about what it is that, has happened in the past, but then kind of gives us the freedom to stop that pattern and change the pattern, right? To really choose from a more conscious point of view. And I love this gate for this reason. In the gene keys, this gate 44, and by the way, this is the sun here. So it's the light of the potential that we have for expression and how we can express this energy in the positive is through the gene keys by moving from interference to teamwork to synarchy. So the higher realization of true progress happens when we kind of accept and understand and honor our interconnectedness, right? That our very survival, our ability to thrive even, is pretty dependent on how we interconnect with one another, how we, come together. And that's in the gene keys. We see this movement from this interfering with each other and canceling out each other to this idea of teamwork and how do we build a team, and ultimately leading to synarchy, which is a word that really means together ruling, right? Syn, S-Y-N, the prefix meaning together, and archy is sort of the way that we organize ourselves around leadership. So together leadership, right? It's going to be an interesting week, I think, as we look at the different ways our leaders are showing up or not showing up, such as the case may be in the world around us. Now, so where human design speaks of recognizing patterns, the gene key reminds us that the awareness of those patterns leads to harmony and collective evolution. So that's our sun. Now, meanwhile, the earth is grounding us in the energy of gate 24 up here on the Ajna, the gate of blessings, which in human design is often about the mental processes that we move through to return. We return to a thought again and again and again, right? It can, in the traditional human design, it was called the gate of rationalization. So we rationalize why things are the way they are, why things can't be the way that we want them to be, and on, right? These are thoughts that go round and round, and the thoughts can be almost obsessive, right? So the gate 24 sometimes is on this mental loop around these different things until we find clarity or we find meaning. But in the gene key 24, the journey moves us from the addiction of these mental thoughts to invention and ultimately to silence. And this is a reminder that the mind's loops either entrap us or maybe inspire us, depending on which way that we're trying to think, right? Are we thinking through our lives in these mental loops, or are we using inspiration to arise within us and to try new ways of acting in our lives? So together, these two gates, the 44 on the spleen and the 24 up here on the ajna, truth and blessings. They weave an energy together that invites us to see the truth about our patterns and our thoughts and our behaviors, and then to find the hidden blessings in them, right? In a way, this is a prelude to changing the story, right? Changing the story of your life. We've all had the ups and downs and the patterns of our lives, right? In every one of us. And it is how we greet those patterns in our mind that really determines what it is that we do, right? The actions that we take are often born out of these mental loops, which can often charge us up emotionally, that then cause us to take action. And the question then becomes, are we taking positive action? Are we doing things because we're responding, or are we reacting to this old information? Are we reacting to these old thoughts? So this week, the cosmos is really helping us to move from the mental noise to the quiet knowing, from isolation to harmony, and from interference of fear, the fear impact, to the synergy of truth, right? The together energy of truth. So as you move through this week, ask yourself, what truth from the past is ready to be seen clearly? What pattern, you can ask yourself, from the past is waiting to be seen clearly? And what blessing can you find in the pattern that keeps repeating? What is it teaching you about you? And what is it teaching you about the direction that you need to move in, or how to, best evolve through that energy? And then finally, how might silence, right, shutting down the mind, turning off the phone, turning off all the outside stimulus, and just being in the silence, true inner stillness, if you will, how would that reveal your next steps? How could that move you in a way, in a positive forward way? So really, this week's energy is a powerful energy for clearing the old karmic debris. This is important, right? Because the nodes are about to shift in human design, and we're going to have some new energy that we can play with here. So we really are in a position to clear out the old karmic debris, reestablish a new alignment before those nodes shift on Monday. And we're going to get to that in just a bit. All right, so questions. Let's take a look at what's going on. I can't see it from here. There we go. Good morning, Jana. Good to have you with us. Joan Durchie, happy Friday. J-Lo, good morning to you. Teddy, hello. And Christine says 44.5 Scorpio moon. So, depending on the body that is sitting there, like in my own chart, I have Neptune, I believe it is, that's at gate 44. You're saying your moon is at gate 44. So what you have is this connection to the emotions of the past. And how are those emotions from past experiences keeping you tied into an old pattern, right? Into an old way of being and the old fears that are coming up. So this is a pretty good time of year for you, Christine, to be able to, really look deeper into the emotions that are tying you to the past, right? The emotional awareness that you have. So Tom, good morning to you. And Asa, good to have you with us. Christine said it reminds me of Frank Zappa's song, Cosmic Debris. I have not heard that song. I'm going to have to go look that one up, Christine. Thank you very much for bringing it to our attention. Now, I just want to say a reminder for everybody and your human design. You may or may not have planets, such as Christine or as myself and Tom. I believe you have this as well. You may or may not have planets that are sitting at the gate 44. And if you don't, now suddenly the sun is there. So it might be highlighting things for you that you've never really given much thought to, right? You might notice a pattern of things that happen to you at this time of year, in this time, right? That are repeating. But for you, those repeating patterns aren't always in your mind. They might be conditioned for you by the people around you. So this is your opportunity to see clear through to the patterns that are holding you back or holding you down or not being, helpful for you. Even though, part of me wants to say that those patterns are helpful because it tells you, like, where are you out of alignment? Where is the truth not quite hitting you yet? Now, if you're someone who has energy already at the gate 44, and you'll know you have it at gate 44 because there'll be some kind of color there, right? It'll either be red or black, or if you've gotten the chart from my website, it'll either be magenta or turquoise blue. That tells you that you have another planet sitting there that is going to sort of conjoin with the sun and shine a brighter light on that piece for you. So Christine, for you, for example, now the sun is coming to the moon in your human design. Okay. And whether that's on the personality side, the soul side, or the life purpose side also makes a difference. Is it going to be something that you're going to take action on, or is it something that you're learning from a soul's perspective? The soul perspective, of course, being one that's going to be a little bit more impactful and deep, right? Something like an aha revelation kind of moment. If you're someone whose gate 44 connects to the will center at gate 26, then you're someone who has an impact on an entire channel, and that's the channel of integrity. So you may be called to task on areas of your life where you are out of integrity in some way, where you are needing to come back to your truth, right? Where you are needing to reestablish the right steps, right quality of life for you. Okay. Questions. If you guys have questions about that, let me know. Julie says, I did not know it was Celtic New Year. I did not either. Julie says she does have color in her gate 44. So if you have color, see if you can translate that to what planet is sitting at gate 44 for you, because now you also have the sun sitting there. Now, the same thing holds true for the gate 24. Right? If you have something at the gate 24 already, you've got color there, and see if you can trace down what planet it is. And no matter what, if you have that empty, then you're also going to have the earth sitting now at that gate 24, causing you perhaps to really look deeper at the blessings in your life, to really start to count your blessings, right? Not to see necessarily the negative things that have happened in your life as downward spirals. They may be, but what have you gained from them? What are you learning from them? How do you take those and turn them around and transform them into positive vibrations coming for you, in a new story, in a new way? And Amy, and those of us with an open spleen, great question, because an open spleen is the spleen center, remember, handles things like intuition and time and wellness, health and wellness. It is also deeply intuitive. It is our inner knowing. It is our survival instinct. So it has instinctual awareness. When you have an open spleen, that isn't always solid for you, right? It's not your superpower to use your intuition. You have it, but it may be fluctuating based on who you're around or what planets might be defining the spleen to another center. And an open spleen will sometimes take in all of this stuff from around them, and they don't know what to let go of. So they hold on too long. They hold on to too many things. You're also, with an open spleen, someone who's very intuitive about others. Maybe not so much about yourself, but intuitive about others. And when you're with others, this is how this will play out, right? Where you can tap into what might be, an appropriate message to deliver to someone, or maybe it's a message about somebody else's health or their well-being, because you really see that. But the open spleen is not consistent in its ability to tap in that way. So often fear for you is going to be mobile. It's going to happen based on, who was around you, or certain fears may come up when planets like the sun transiting through the spleen area define something for you. And then when the spleen is not being, picked on, if you will, by the cosmos, then fear seems to recede to the background, except maybe when you're around other people, right? Because remember, we're always completing one another, right? So all of us sitting here today, we all have different human designs, yet our energies are still meshing. And in some way, they're coming together to complete channels, whether that is a channel that is going to bring you new insight, a channel that will trigger a fear, a channel that might trigger some action on your part, right? It's all coming together. All right. Asa, Neptune is at your gate 44. It is in mine as well. It is also Tom and Londa, if you're out there listening. That is a place that Neptune sat at for quite a while in the early part of the 60s, 1960s. Julie, I loved your blogs or stories you posted. Thank you very much. I don't know if any of you, the rest of you, have seen them. I decided to start posting stories. These were actually going to be part of a book I was writing. I have the whole outline of it. And these were all the stories that, as I started to look at them, I realized they really proved to me, and I'm hoping that others who are skeptics will get this, as some kind of proof of an afterlife, or of our spiritual foundation, of the fact that we are spirits in human form. I know a lot of you here in the morning show are already aware of this, but there's a lot of people out there with doubts about that. So I thought by sharing my stories, and right now I'm kind of going chronologically, to share how my own journeys brought me to this awareness of the fact that, this physical, what we think of as real world is only like a piece of the story, right? That there's something much bigger going on. So thank you so much, Julie, for saying that. And you can catch those, by the way, if you're on my email list. You're getting those stories delivered to you. But also, I am posting them on Facebook and the groups Living Astrology and Live Your Human Design, so you can get them, right? I also end up putting them on my own personal Facebook page as well. All right, Sarah, good morning. She says, I'm a splenic projector and a Scorpio with a lot of planets in my 10th house of Scorpio. So I've been feeling a lot of pressure around the balance of myself and my community, right? Because the 10th house is all about career and profession and who you are seen to be in the outer world, or how even you entertain that outer world, your career. What do I do? Who am I that is wrapped up in that profession? And when, we've got this Scorpio time of year, and the gates are all being, hit by the sun, even in the Libra part of the year, in the late Virgo part of the year, we're getting this energy of these fears that are being popped up. And it can be felt as pressure. Like you might feel this pressure that you have to deal with something, some fear or something in your life that, might be something you're not equipped to deal with, or maybe feels like I have to do something, but maybe there's not a pathway yet for you to do that. So, Sarah, it might be time, like I said, I think in a text to you, that for a solar return reading, take a look at what is it that you're being asked to do. Okay, let's move on. I want to share the astrology chart for the weekend, if I can. This is actually today's chart. And you'll see we still have this giant grand water trine, but what I want to talk about first is this pink line that connects the planet Venus to the planet Jupiter. You'll see Jupiter kind of in blue and pink, and Venus is in pink. So this is Sunday's big aspect, and Venus in Libra is squaring Jupiter in Cancer. So squares, we know, typically bring up tension of some sort, some kind of obstacle perhaps that we sense that is in our way, or something that we feel like we must push through in order to get somewhere. And whenever Venus and Jupiter meet, the energy can feel really sweet. Typically, it's, they're the two benefics of the zodiac. And a square between them can bring tension between what feels good, what feels sweet, what feels like, ooh, just yummy, and what it is that would be good for us and what it is that we need to grow. So it's a cosmic clash between the comfort zone and the expansion zone, right? With Jupiter holding up the mirror of expansion, and Venus in Libra holding up the, yes, but this is also sweet right here, right? So good. Now, Venus in Libra is sitting at the gate 32, which is also on the spleen center. This is called the gate of endurance, and it reminds us that true value in love, in finances, and in our creative work isn't built overnight. It doesn't come with the snap of a finger. It's preserved through patience, through commitment, and through devotion to what truly matters. And in human design, this gate sitting in the spleen center, which we've already had the sun at, is also very instinctive. This is instinctual awareness of what it takes to endure and to know what's worth holding on to know what's ready to fall away as well, what needs to be released, what needs to be let go of. But when Venus hits Jupiter by a square, it can magnify both our attachments to something, to someone, but also our desires. So we have to be able to, work through what is really correct for us. And meanwhile, Jupiter is sitting at the gate 62. 62 is a gate called preparation. We've talked about this one many times because there have been many aspect planets or other planets hitting Jupiter. And this is about being practical with our growth. Practical, right? Not just whimsical and grow all over the place. Jupiter loves abundance and expansion, but gate 62 says not so fast. Let's make sure you've prepared the details first. We've got to see the big picture, but we've also got to see the little picture. So it is called the gate of precision in older human design language. It is about organizing ideas into form, being sure that the foundation can support what the growth is all about, supporting the growth that's coming even. So when you put these two together, Venus and Jupiter in a square, you can almost hear this universal voice saying, don't chase comfort at the expense of purpose, but also don't expand so fast that you skip the steps that it takes to make success sustainable. And for you out there that are manifesting generators, maybe even manifestors, you guys are kind of designed already with this skip steps kind of mentality. And manifestors specifically, just this initiating energy, this might be a difficult square for you, right? Difficult because you're being asked to slow it down just a titch, right? Instead of just running full tilt towards something, that you're being asked to maybe look at the details before you take the next step, right? Build the platform first, then launch, right? That's what this is all about. Now in the gene keys, if we look at the 32, this energy moves from failure to preservation to veneration. So what looks like failure to us is often the compost or that preserves what's sacred, right? It preserves and allows new life to grow, right? So it's not, failure is such a loaded word, isn't it, right? Because in our society, there are certain things that qualify you as a failure, right? Or certain reasons why someone would think of you as a failure or why you would think of yourself as a failure. But really, the question isn't about are you succeeding or failing, but rather are you honoring what truly deserves your devotion, right? Your time, your effort, your money, right? Are you honoring that? So this weekend, while this is all taking place, relationships and finances and our values might feel stretched. The tension is revealing what is worth preserving, what is worth spending your time, your money, your energy on, and what's merely weighing you down, right? Remember, the 32 is splenic. Spleen energy holds on too long, can hold on too long. So you're being asked to really take a look at that. Notice where you're over giving. Notice where you're overspending. Notice where you're over promising. Because Jupiter's optimism can be really beautiful, but grounded optimism is what makes or brings real blessings, right? So in short, Venus says, endure with what matters. And Jupiter says, prepare for what's next. And together they remind us that love and abundance and values all grow stronger when they're rooted in truth and not illusion, kind of bringing that Venus square Jupiter together with the sun and the earth's placement for this week. All right. Questions on that? Comments on that? I'll bring this chart. I'm going to leave this chart up just so I can look at the doing this. So I love the talk about expansion and leadership. There's a need energetically for something genuine and unifying in new ways with grace and with passion. Absolutely. There is definitely an absence of that in the world, right? We hear a lot of derogatory comments and things out there in the world. And we're also seeing very poor leadership, I think, in the world. It's, power grabs and things like that. So Scorpio, actually, if you think about it. Also, very Pluto and Aquarius, to see how opposite it is to what Pluto and Aquarius will ultimately bring us, which is, the linking together of humanity and the bringing together of synarchy, the idea of leadership togetherness, right? So it is just an interesting time that we live in seeing this. Christine, 32.6 is her Jupiter in Scorpio, body side. we do hold on too long. I do anyway, indeed, right? So it's a good time for all of us, including you, Christine, and Sarah, and Julie, Tom, any of you out there listening to my voice this morning. Take a look at your baggage. What are you holding on to? What are you reluctant to let go of, even in the face of the signs in the universe pointing you in that direction? Right? Okay. All right, let's go on. So now I'm going to actually, I need to shift this. How do I get you out of there? I want to remove that one, and I want to go to the body graph chart. I will bring that chart back up because there's more to be said about this, but I want to show you something entirely interesting, or at least to me. If you look at this particular human design chart, we're seeing this energy of a nodal shift, right? So I was talking about that at the very beginning of the show, where we are, really about to shift in the karma and the destiny of the collective on the planet. And right now we have the head center being connected by the north node at the gate 63, and the south node will be at the gate 64. So we have this head center that is going to light up from November 3rd, Monday, through December 22nd. Luckily, it's a shorter period of time. And this is happening just as we're getting out of, hopefully, getting out of these mental loops with the sun and the earth being placed at the gate 44, bringing us into this body, bringing us into our intuitive knowing self, and the gate 24 helping us to focus on the blessings as opposed to, all the things that are wrong. So it's just an interesting thing to be seeing here. And, the nodes up until tomorrow, or up until Monday, excuse me, are at the gate 22 on the solar plexus. So this gate right here, on the lower right side of the screen, is where the north node is, the gate of grace and the gate of mindset. So the south node has been in the gate 47 on the ajna, helping us to maybe take a look at those mindset things, the stinking thinking, those kinds of properties in our mind that have held us into old patterns. And then it is going to move to the 64. The 64 is what the downloads are, what comes in from, God or source or spirit or, whatever words you want to use for this. And I just find it fascinating that the south node is moving from one kind of mental loop to another, right? Because the gate 64 in its lowest expression is confusion. So there could be about a lot of confusion coming as we move into this next week and move through December 22nd about who we are, about what we are, about where we're going, about what we're doing. And yet there is this drop in of new ideas and new thinking and new patterns coming in. And this is collective, but we don't know yet what to do with them. So we've got to look at the north node. And the north node is at the 63. The 63 is called the gate of curiosity. It's also called the gate of doubt. And this gate asks the question why. It begins the logical thinking, where the 64 is all about the intuitive or the knowingness, right? So we have the nodes holding two distinctive different energies for us. And essentially with the north node at the 63, we're being asked to look at what's possible. What the question isn't about, how did we get ourselves into the situation? Because I don't know that how really comes up here. But why, right? Why? Well, maybe we got to go back to our thinking. Maybe we have to look at what we've been looking at in terms of patterns, the gate of patterns this week, right? So let's take a look, first of all, at the nodes again and what they really mean before we go on further with this conversation. In astrology, the nodes always represent destiny on one hand, karma on the other. Karma meaning the past, the gifts, the talents, the experiences, all held in the south node. The north node is what's possible. Where are we going, right? How do we move this energy into the new energy? And it's an axis in astrology where the nodes are always across from one another. Right now, the north node is in Pisces, and directly across from it is the south node. The south node is in Virgo. So the south node, first, the north node is where we're going, right? The direction, it's the path forward. And the south node reveals the familiar patterns, the past life themes, and maybe what it is that we're ready to release, while the north node points toward the evolutionary direction. So one hand, we're letting go. The other hand, we're opening it up to fill the new space. The qualities and the experiences of our soul that our souls wish to embody as a collective is what we're talking about here today. Now, in human design, the nodes play a similar but more nuanced role because they create a storyline of experience. And the environmental and the energetic themes that shape our personal and our collective evolution play out in the nodes in human design. So when the nodes shift their gates, the tone of destiny changes for everyone, right? On the bigger level, on the storyline level. And for the last several months, the North Node has been in the gate 22 Grace and the South Node in the gate 47 Mindset. And the gate of grace has been about how to embody grace in the midst of chaos, and how to lead with kindness, and how to open to beauty even when things feel so uncertain, right? So we were being asked to stay in a space of kindness and generosity and love, essentially on an emotional level. And then the gate 47, on the other hand, has kept us mentally processing and reprocessing kind of rehashing all the old things, the old emotional patterns, the old mental patterns, teaching us to stay open-hearted and open-minded, even when we can't yet see the full picture. And that's huge, right? Because there's so many different things that people lean into, right? But now the story is going to shift. And as of early next week on Monday, the North Node moving into the 63 and the South Node into the 64 marks this pivot point from emotional refinement to mental illumination. That doesn't mean we forget to embody the emotions. It doesn't at all. It's really about what are we going to do with the head energy. And in the head center, this gate of curiosity or gate of doubt, it asks the question. It challenges our assumptions, and it doesn't settle for easy answers, right? This is digging a little bit deeper into the whys, and it's the energy that seeks through inquiry. And the gene keys, this journey moves us from doubt to inquiry to truth. So it's the journey from doubt to truth through inquiry, through asking questions, right? Asking questions. It's a beautiful reminder to us that doubt isn't the energy or the enemy of truth. It's the beginning of it. We're being asked not to doubt ourselves, but in a way to doubt everything that we thought was true, to really go on the quest to ask those questions and find those answers, right? To find the door that leads to higher understanding, right? And in a way, there are a lot of things that we can bump up against during this kind of time, right? We're bumping up against controversies. We're bumping up against conspiracies. We're bumping up against untruths. We're bumping up against truth, right? At this point, would anybody really know the truth if it stared them in the face? I don't know, right? That's the question we'll have to be asking. Now, the South Node in the gate 24, or excuse me, the gate 64, the gate of confusion in the old quantum human design, but also the gate of divine transference in quantum human design, represents the patterns of confusion that we are ready to release, right? The gene key path here leads us from confusion to imagination and ultimately to illumination, right? So we're seeing the light. And confusion is what happens when we try to force meaning before it's ready to reveal itself, right? The download comes in and we try to force something to make sense, and it isn't making sense. The less it makes sense, the more that we feel confused. The more that we feel confused, the more that we end up in these mental loops trying to force the thinking. So imagination is the salvation here, right? Being open and playful and using creative energy in these downloads, allowing confusion to alchemize into illumination, right? Allowing it the time. The other gate across from the 64, the 47, the gate of mindset, where things have been, where the South Node is currently sitting, has been about the epiphany, the revelation that happens when we allow confusion to settle, right? When we don't feel the need to make it better. So collectively, we're moving from the emotional grace and mental processing into spiritual curiosity and imaginative illumination, turning on the lights. If the last cycle taught us to keep our hearts open, this one teaches us to keep our minds open, to stay curious, to wonder, to listen beyond logic, right? Logic is not the only way of knowing. So maybe you're being asked to reflect on these questions. Where am I being asked to replace certainty with curiosity? What old stories or interpretations, because interpretations, again, are just stories, which ones are you ready to reimagine? And how can I turn doubt into a doorway to truth? Because the nodes always show us our soul's growth, and the shift signals the next collective chapter, right? And it's one that moves us from needing to feel right to being willing to discover what's true. From being right to what's true. And that's the real magic of this moment we find ourselves in, you guys. Because it's just in time for Halloween, right? This is like this time when the veil is super thin and where our access to truth is so close by. When the veil between the worlds thins, truth is waiting to be seen. It's waiting to feel like the light has turned on, like there's this whole new thing for us to see and to imagine and to interact with, right? So the truth is waiting. The truth is out there. All right, so I'm going to go back to the astrology chart, because here in this chart, what we can really see is this beautiful trine. And it is kind of making a kite still, but it's not as close as I would really like to have it to be, really calling it a kite. So I wanted to deal with this grand water trine, because we have several planets involved here. We have Jupiter up here in Cancer. We have the black moon Lilith conjunct Mars down here in Scorpio. And then we have Saturn and Neptune in a conjunction, basically in a conjunction, and in Pisces. So we have our water energy that is really powerful for us. And over the weekend and into early next week, these planets are all interacting. They've been actually interacting energetically. So this is one of these configurations in astrology that feels mystical, yet deeply human as well, where water trines sort of open the heart. You feel like you want to sit up and sit back and pull those shoulders back and lead with your heart. It dissolves resistance. It can invite emotional healing in. And with these particular players, the planets I just gave you, the message is clear. Feel deeply, but act wisely, right? Feel the feels, but don't make your decisions from that emotional reactivity. So let's just start with the players in the trine, because that's important. And you know what? I don't have my watch on. I have no clue what time it is. I don't even know what I did. Here's my phone. Okay. What time do we have? Oh, good. We still have 10 minutes. Good. So if we really start to look at the grand water trine, we can start over here. Let's start with Scorpio, since Scorpio is very powerful at the moment, with the sun there as well as the black moon Lilith and Mars. And we have Lilith in what is called the gate of insight in human design. This is the voice of intuitive truth. I love it. She's the part of you, by the way, that knows what's real beneath the surface, and the pattern, the instinct, the whisper of awakening. She's holding all of that for us, right? For each one of us. And then we have Jupiter up here in Cancer, the sign of nurturing and growth and of building a family, home, family tradition. But he is in the gate 62, the gate of preparation, which expands our knowing to help us translate the insight of the Black Moon Lilith, perhaps, into structure. Interestingly enough, right? Because the rulership of Cancer here is about the foundation that we have, and also the inspiration to ground things into clarity, to wait for that clarity. And then Saturn and Neptune both over here. It's interesting because Saturn is in one gate and Neptune is in another, even though they're only 3.5, 4 degrees apart from each other right now. Saturn is in the gate 36, so we'll deal with him first. The gate 36 is called the gate of exploration in quantum human design, but initially was called the gate of crisis in regular, traditional human design. And here, Saturn asks you to trust in the emotional journey, to stay anchored when life tests your faith, and to find wisdom through experience. He's really, in the sign of Pisces, grounding the spiritual, instinctual energy in for us in our human experience. So together, these planets are, and by the way, Neptune, also a part of this trine, I think he's well within orb of the trine, is all in the gate 25, the gate of spirit. So again, we have this, energy that's harmonizing our intuition with preparation, with emotional maturity. It's like the current of emotional intelligence running through the collective. And it's encouraging each of us to let go of fear and to flow with trust, right? Trust that we're moving in the right direction in this right timing. But there is an edge to this otherwise harmonious flow. And it's a tension point that ensures growth rather than complacency. So in other words, you don't just sit back on your laurels and not work through this. And this is the Black Moon Lilith in Scorpio forming a conjunction to Mars and an in conjunction. Follow this dotted green line that you see from our Black Moon Lilith Mars over to Eris and Chiron, right? And this is kind of an aspect that stirs the pot, if you will, right? The themes of healing, the themes of the suppressed feminine, about reclaiming our authentic voices individually, but also collectively, and confronting where anger and pain or rebellion have been silenced, are all in this mix, all gyrating together here and creating some, stirring of the pot, right? The bubbling, if you will, of the cauldron, right? To use Halloween language. This aspect with Eris demands that the truth be spoken, right? She does not sugarcoat. And Chiron asks that we speak it with compassion, that we speak it into healing energy. It's not just about the disruption. It's not about the ugliness of it all. It's about how do we heal it. And then considering Lilith is involved as well with this, from her depths, she refuses to be dismissed. And interestingly enough, in her conjunction to Mars, the feminine is getting fed some energy for confronting those very places where we have been silenced or where you individually have been silenced. So it's really kind of fascinating to watch. So while the trine, the grand water trine, soothes and supports, the inconjunct ensures that we don't bypass the work that needs to be done, right? We don't get to spiritually bypass anything. It asks us, where do we still compromise ourselves, our truth, to keep the peace? And maybe where has your power been denied you? Where have you denied yourself your power? And also, can you reclaim it with grace rather than rage, rather than angry, rather than upset? Can you reclaim it with compassion? And then with Mars in the gate 14, gate of creation, forming a trine to Neptune on Monday. This energy is very powerful. This is very spiritual energy. This is the creative heart aligning with compassionate soul. And this energy is the perfect finale to the weekend's energy, even though it comes on Monday. It'll be activated actually on Sunday. Mars fuels purpose and momentum. It causes us to move. It shakes us into or out of our reverie and into a space of action, gaining momentum, right? It fuels that purpose. Neptune spiritualizes your purpose. And together, this is the moment when action and faith kind of merge, where your spiritual self and your human self come together, when creation becomes devotion. I love this. So altogether, these alignments form this wave of emotional alchemy, let's call it. The black moon Lilith brings integrity and insight and honesty. Jupiter expands vision and faith and helps you to see the details that you need to get to where you're going. Saturn provides grounded wisdom, grounded emotional wisdom. Mars channels this creative power in a direction. Neptune infuses it all with spirit. And Eris and Chiron together in their conjunction ensures that transformation comes through courageous truth telling, right? So this weekend, let the waters cleanse, let the fire refine, and the spirit renew, right? That would be the clarion call from the universe. It's emotional, yes. But it's also sacred. This is sacred energy. This is a sacred time in the evolution of humans. The cosmos is reminding us that the real magic happens when we honor our feelings and our truth. And I would also add to that, when we are willing to clear out the baggage, when we're willing to let go, right? That is the biggest message I think that we can take away. So as we close out today's Halloween show, remember that the weekend's energy is more than, costumes and candy and dealing with the, veil thinning. It's not just about that. It's really about the veil thinning between your inner self and your outer self and how you bring them together again, right? The truth with the sun in the gate 44 helps us to see what's real. The earth in the gate 24 blessings reminds us to find grace in what we discover in our experiences. The Venus-Jupiter square that we talked about earlier in the show tests our values and our priorities. And the nodes shifting to curiosity and divine transference really open the next chapter of our collective awakening. So layer that in with the grand water trine that has Lilith, Jupiter, Mars, Eris, Chiron, and did I get them all? Yes, Neptune in it. Then, the universe is inviting us in to emotional and spiritual renewal, right? That's our bigger message. So this is the time to let truth guide you to your home base, to what's true for you, to turn emotion into wisdom and to transform those endings that, we all are facing into new beginnings. All right. So as you move through Halloween, as you move through this weekend, kind of think on these cosmic cycles and how they've been impacting you personally, but also the people around you. Not everybody recognizes that this is an astrological thing, but it is, right? And it's really time for us to be responsible for the things that we are creating and for where it is that we want to go. All right, everybody. Yes, you're most welcome. Feliz Dia de los Muertos. Of course, that's tomorrow, right? Dia de los Muertos is November 1st, All Saints Day. And everyone, you're so welcome. Thank you for being here with me this morning. And I will be here on Monday, given hopefully no major issues technologically, because again, this weekend we have another atmospheric river heading right at us. Hopefully the wind doesn't come at us. All right, guys, take care. Happy Halloween. I will see you on Monday. Bye for now.